There we go. Can everybody hear me okay? My volume's good back there? All right, folks that hopped on late, I am Alex. I am your tour guide for about an hour. I'm going to ring the bell. That's going to make the tour official. We're going to start. So remember, remain seated. Don't hang your arms and legs off the side of the train. Let's go learn all about the nation's oldest city. This is St. Augustine, Florida, since 1565. We are 456 years old. And away we go. Listen, when you come back to Ripley's later, you got to check out some of the stuff on display in our parking lot, like this cabin on your left. That log is an actual log cabin. It is a 4-room home carved out of the inside of a log that a guy actually lived in for a whole bunch of years. Over here on your right, behind those tall bushes, you can see the white head and shoulders of a statue. That statue is an exact replica of Michelangelo's David from over in Italy. Now, how exact is that replica? Stop giggling. It's exact because they used marble from the same Italian marble quarry that Michelangelo used. Okay. And now you can start giggling a little bit because, yes, he's naked back there. He's got no clothes on. That's why we grew the bushes around him. When we first put that statue there, we wrapped a towel around it and then realized it's almost always breezy here in St. Augustine. We had to grow him a privacy hedge instead. You know what we clean that statue with? Windex. Oh yeah, Windex keeps him from streaking. You know, Windex doesn't streak and streaking, running around naked. Yeah. That's the best you're getting if you came here for jokes. Bad dad jokes. Why? Because I'm a bad dad.
Trouble.
All right, you want the actual history to start? 1513. Take your brain to 1513. In 1513, Don Juan Ponce de Leon, or Ponce as I call him because I have a horrible Spanish accent, Ponce was sailing around looking for an island called Bimini. He never found Bimini, but he did find a land that was not on any of his maps or his charts. He named it La Florida, claimed it as Spanish territory, and here we are today in Ponce's, Florida. Ponce was told to come back here a second time and start a town on the coast of Florida. He came back a second time, got shot by an arrow, and got dead. Spain had a lot of trouble settling here starting in 1513, 1514. You see, there were too many mosquitoes spreading deadly diseases, alligators biting parts off of people, humidity that made it miserable to live here in Florida, just like it's miserable to live here today. So Spain stopped trying to settle Florida for a whole bunch of years, but in 1565, they finally settled Florida because in 1564, King Philip II of Spain found out something the French did here on Spanish territory that really bugged him. Other than being French. You know what the French did? They built a fort here on Spanish territory about 30 miles north of here. They called it Fort Caroline. King Philip of Spain said, no way, ain't gonna happen. Get off my land, Frenchies. But he said it in Spanish. So to get the French off of his land, King Philip sent an army over here in 1565, led by a general from Avilés, Spain. That general's name was General Pedro Menendez. General Menendez was sent here with 2 jobs. Job 1, wipe out that annoying little French fort. Job 2, build a town on the coast of Florida, and the fort remind everybody that Florida belongs to Spain. So in 1565, an army got on some boats, came across the Atlantic Ocean, ended up here in St. Augustine, but there was no town yet. They came ashore just over there on your right, where you see that 208-foot tall stainless steel cross. And at that location, they had the first Catholic Mass here under a wooden cross that their priest, Father Grajales, built. Why didn't he build that stainless steel cross? It's simple. Stainless steel hadn't been invented yet. So they used their wooden cross and built the first little tiny town that they called St. Augustine right out there under where that cross sits today. That town only lasted about a year, then they moved across the river to Anastasia Island, built a second town called St. Augustine that lasted about 6 years, and finally moved back to this side of the river and built the town of St. Augustine that we have today. That cross was actually built in 1965 to celebrate our 400th birthday. All right, I got the special license to drive this thing, which means when the boss isn't around, I get to take it wherever I want that I think it'll fit. And I think this train will fit nicely into the parking lot of the Villa 1565 Hotel. So that's where we're going to go, to a hotel parking lot. You see, I like trees, and there's a tree in that parking lot. I'm going to take you to stare at it. That's the part where you're supposed to throw up your arms and say, yay, tree. Listen, it's a special tree. This tree even has a name. It is called the Old Senator. And if you look through my windshield, you can see the Old Senator out in front of us in the middle of the parking lot. Now, the Old Senator is special because of how old he is. That is a live oak tree. Scientists know that live oaks can normally live from 250 to 300 years. But they studied that tree and proved it to be more than 600 years old. That tree more than doubled the life expectancy of a live oak. So that's why we come visit him. Very, very old tree. Now, the Old Senator is also one of our city's many love trees. Oh, I just saw some eyes light up. Ooh, love trees, Alex. Tell me about that. Well, it's simple. When one tree grows out of another, we say they're in love. Look at that tree. His belly about 10 feet up. He's got a small palm tree starting to grow. He used to have a full-size palm tree growing there. So we do say he is a love tree. And the legend of St. Augustine's love tree says, if you kiss someone you love under the branches of a love tree, they will stay with you forever and ever and ever. Don't kiss the kids. Did anybody kiss the kids? Do not ever kiss the kids under one of these trees. Trust me, these trees work. When I moved here from West Virginia 5 years ago, I gave my beautiful wife a kiss under a love tree down in town. And then she turned and kissed our 12-and-a-half-year-old son on the cheek, thinking it was cute. He is now 17 and a half and will not move out of my house. So I'm pretty sure the love tree worked. Yeah, these are beautiful old trees. Like I say, one grows out of the other. And she's still with me today, 5 years later, so I guess the love tree worked because I do some pretty stupid things sometimes. Are there any senators on my tree? Nobody's a senator? All right, I have a perfect record. I have never had a senator on my train, which means I've gotten to tell the next corny dad joke every tour I've given for the last 4 years. Do you know why we call that tree the Old Senator? Look at him. He's old, crooked, and shady.
That's a good one.
All right, come on, let's go. Let's leave the Old Senator behind us. You all right? We'll leave the Old Senator behind us. We're going to make a left turn out of this parking lot onto the beautiful Magnolia Avenue. Magnolia Avenue has been featured twice over the years, not once, but twice, in National Geographic magazine, because National Geographic thinks our Magnolia Avenue is one of the prettiest streets in the country to have your picture taken on. Magnolia Avenue in St. Augustine gets its name because it is lined with tall, beautiful, full-grown
trees.
Live oak trees. What happened to the magnolias, Alex? Well, it's very simple. The magnolias died in the winter of 1877 when we had a really long freeze, and this street was replanted with tiny little live oak trees. And those live oak trees grew into this big, beautiful canopy you see over your head now. Check that out.
Cave of trees.
This is a really popular place for wedding pictures and things like that. People come down this street, stand in the middle of the street and have their pictures taken while the cars sit and beat their horns at them. I just ring the bell and say congratulations. But that stuff hanging from the trees we call Spanish moss. Now listen, I've got to tell you the truth. Because I'm a science teacher in my real life, as a scientist, I know that that stuff ain't Spanish. It ain't even moss. It's actually an air plant. It does not harm the trees. It has no roots. Gets everything it needs from the air and the rainwater. Coming up on your left, you see folks sitting at a table at the place where you can get the best cup of Cuban coffee in St. Augustine. It's called the Fountain of Juice. And right across the street, rhyming with its name, we have the Fountain of Youth. That's right. The Fountain of Youth, I know it works. When I moved here from West Virginia 5 years ago, I was 83 years old and retired. Started drinking from the fountain 3 times a day, which was way too much. I drank myself all the way back to 55 years old. I should have stopped drinking when I was about 70 and stayed retired, but you know, I'm not that smart a man. This is not just a fountain where you can take a drink and feel young all over again. It's also an archaeological site. They found the Native American village of Saloy sat on this land about 5,000 years before the Spanish ever arrived.
So you can eat here?
Now listen, if you want a little bit of extra proof that the fountain actually works, look at this handsome man right here in the blue t-shirt with a nice picture of a beach scene. He's younger than me, right? A lot less gray than I am. That's actually my great-grandfather. I dropped him off at 5:30 this morning. He's been drinking from the fountain all day long. Hi, great-grandpa. Now, the fact that he waved back is proof that I'm not lying to you. The fountain works, doesn't it, Grandpa? Have a good day, everybody. It also turns some people into non-humans. Check that out. That's a pretty cool look. I love it. All right, we're going to head out of this parking lot. We are going to continue on our tour, but first I have to talk to you about building materials. I know what you're thinking. Alex, I didn't buy a ticket to Home Depot. It's okay. This is my special gift to you today. As I exit this parking lot, I'm going to stop between two pillars on the right and left. These pillars are made out of a naturally formed material called coquina. Coquina is tiny little shells that sat on the bottom of the ocean, got compressed together under the ocean's pressure for 1 to 200,000 years. The Spanish found this stuff in the ground. They realized they could cut blocks of it out of the ground because it was still wet enough to shape with hatchets and saws. They'd cut those blocks out, let them sit in the hot Florida sun, and they'd dry out and harden up like rock. So they started building everything in town out of coquina until the King of Spain started charging a coquina tax and ruined it on them. They didn't want to pay the coquina tax, so for a few years while that tax was in effect, they stopped building with coquina, and they made their own man-made material using a technique they learned from the Native Americans in the area. They made tabby, and look on your right, that wall is a man-made thing. It's oyster shells with crushed limestone, sand, and water. They'd mix it up, put it in a mold, and let it dry out in Florida's sun. Saved them a lot of tax money. It's also a defensive wall. If somebody tried to climb it, they'd get their hands all cut up on the oyster shells. Now, I am going to turn left onto William Street. It's residential. We've been asked not to be on our mics because it's probably annoying to listen to us all day long. So I'm going to quiet down. I'll meet you at the far end of William Street. Look at these two guys in the garden on the left. The short one, I think he might have been the last red train driver who talked on this road.
That's a fine for the other
All right, let me take your brains to the 1880s. In the 1880s, rich oil company man Henry Flagler showed up in St. Augustine to build his first hotel. Well, he was building that hotel and he realized it was too close to the local jail. So he went to the city. He said, hey, can you build a new jail? Build it at least a mile outside of town away from my hotel. The city said, we can't afford a new jail. Henry said, I can. Take my money. So they took Henry Flagler's money. They designed a new jail. They built it a mile north of town. And since Henry was paying for it, he made another request. He asked that it be designed to look more like a hotel than a jail. So they built the jail.